It's all open source.
Yeah.
So the same thing why I would make everything also open source. It's more like, okay, making a banking system that is closed source is nonsensical in my opinion. Because what MakerDAO or Curve try to do, they're trying to build a better system. If somebody else is out there that can create a better system, go ahead. But they have to, and Curve needs to compete and needs to keep up. And you saw that, like Curve got forked a lot by a lot of protocols.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Welcome to the GoldRepublic Podcast. My name is Bart Brands.
And I'm Alexej Jordanov. In our weekly podcast, we invite guests from all over the world to get valuable insights
into the emergence of a new monetary system through the lens of precious metals, cryptocurrencies, and other financial instruments.
Now coming back to DeFi, having now had like a bit of a picture of where it situates globally and politically and country level, I like to kind of go dive and go back into DeFi and see, okay, what are the different financial products that emerge from this new type of finance?
Yes, exactly. So it's like, so if you look at the digital financial stack, right? So there's a settlement layer, which can be different things. Bitcoin can be a settlement layer for DeFi. Other Ethereum is a settlement layer. Mostly use settlement layer for DeFi because it's the most easy to build applications on top of that settlement layer. So what we're seeing is we see decentralized money markets. We see basically a money market like for lending or borrowing money, or like printing or destroying money, right? So that we see that in the system. We see decentralized exchanges, so we can going to a website or to a protocol where we can peer-to-peer change money to each other. We can do that now, but we can also do this miles apart via the internet. Or we see also a lot of like game use cases, gaming or NFTs or non-fungible tokens where that are being used. We can see a lot of like different communities, voting mechanisms, etc., also used by decentralized finance, but voting rights, right? That's also then expressed in money terms as well. So that are the main things. I would say the main things right now are money markets and decentralized exchanges and decentralized borrowing lending protocols. That's the main use case, and that's mainly what it's used for right now. But that's not how we. That's not why they're a little bit afraid of this, and that's not why they're like why this is getting so much momentum. It's an important part of it because with this, decentralized financial system, we can start to build new things. But what's important for the system is to also hook into real world assets, and we see that more and more happening. So we see instead of just decentralized money markets where we just borrow and lend to each other to just do some trading, which is nice. If you look in the centralized financial system, that's also what's used for a lot. Like a lot of the money in circulation is used for trading or arbitrage opportunities. And in decentralized financial system, it's the same thing. But we also need to have more real world use cases, and that's also what I'm working on right now as well. To get like, instead of just having UTXOs, like it's like an unspent transaction, just pushing that to each other. We will have more real world assets like a piece of gold or a piece of silver that can then interact with a new technology stack where it increases the economic bandwidth, or an insurance policy that you put on a blockchain where it can much faster go from one party to the other party. And that's the next step that we're now entering.
How long before there is that flawless interaction between the consumer, average consumer, and applications like you just explained?
It's already happening. So already some applications like crypto.com or Swissborg or other applications, they're making it very easy for you to just download the app and put in your credit card information and then just buy a crypto assets and get a yield. That's it. And also with Crashcofin, we're also building a similar layer as well, where everybody can just download the app or go to a website, put in there, actually create a bank account. In our case, you can just create a bank account and go into DeFi seamlessly. So I think it's here already, but it's not. The UI can improve. Yeah, UI can improve, and the explanation and the education can much more improve. So it's here already. You can already do it, but probably will. Yeah, that's a good question. It probably will take another couple of years or months to like get that UI better, I guess. Yeah, there a lot of people are working on that problem.
So it's quite interesting also like to see the developments in general. Like I remember the first NFT with CryptoKitties clogging up the Ethereum network. And this was like for game applications, but they were like also artistic, and it's in their nature as well. It was a bit of a mix of a game and art. And now we've seen a boom of an explosion actually in NFTs. Also like this year, I think just recently rocks were sold for 100K, literally JPEG rocks. CryptoPunks, all that. And I gotta be really honest here. I don't get it. And I'm in the scene since 4 years, and I get it, but I don't get it. It's like a dichotomy. It's my brain is split into like this is the way we interact online in games. When I play, for example, Call of Duty, and I buy a skin for $20, it didn't cost, the marginal cost of the game to produce that skin is zero. It can be to infinity, right? But so that fake scarcity is basically, I think now we reached a level of our civilization or the state of finance or the way we govern value between human beings and water bags that is coming to a, like, just like Elon Musk says, like a kind of like a self-fulfilling joke with Doge. I think that's kind of also the way he shields it.
Yeah.
He wants it to be the self-fulfilling joke.
It's the most entertaining outcome.
Yeah.
That would happen.
It is. It's the most entertaining outcome, exactly.
That's what
as he says, exactly.
He said it like that. It's very funny.
Yeah. So I wonder, like, what's next then? Because if we reach also like I would call it still, I think, prize discovery, or just like a teenager, like just like with the hormones and stuff, like going all over the place, being kind of similar and just manifested in markets. What's the next frontier? And maybe if you want to comment on the NFT first, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So NFTs are a very interesting thing that's happening, right? Like, I mean, NFTs are around for a long time. I've been playing with it for some time, and I saw it coming out. It's like, okay, interesting. And suddenly, for some reason, like, it got started mostly like the CryptoPunks, or what was the first big NFT thing? Actually,
it was CryptoKitties.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess
so. And yeah. I really remember.
But then it died off. Then we had like a long time of like no interest at all in NFTs.
Yeah, but I mean, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, you were right, CryptoKitties. But then there was this resurgence of people buying a lot of these NFTs. So, but I think to understand it, it's like when Cypherpunks hit, I kind of started to understand it. I sold my Cypherpunk too early because I was like, okay, this funny thing, and then I sold it. I made profit. I was like, okay, that's cool. But it's actually more of like it's a statement of like it's a cultural thing, because it's like we're all in the Ethereum. Well, I'm in the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's like a lot of people had a good run up with Ethereum price, and they're like, well, I want to express my values to this collective cultural proof of culture, I guess. So it's a little bit of a proof of culture. So there's NFTs in your wallet, and then it shows that you're one of the crypto punks that was here in the DeFi summer, in the all this cool things that happened lately. So if you have that in your wallet, and if you're one of the early, like in your wallet, you use it as your Twitter profile, then people directly know like, oh, you're that kind of person, right? So and that's why it's valuable. Like if you have a CryptoPunk with a special characteristic kind of look with a beard or something, then it's certainly worth much more.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's a cultural statement, I would say.
If I can compare it, I would think back of my my years in primary school, where we had collectibles, and we had like those. I don't know, like if you remember. Maybe I think we're definitely age-wise, maybe a decade apart. But I had Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards.
I had that as well.
Well, there you go. And we had the rollerblades. You know, the rollerblades. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know how much of it stays or remains. You know, you never know. Magic cards, like all that, Warhammers, Lord of Rings figurines, stuff like that. Yeah. And so that principle, which is actually very old, like that's how I think. When I did some research about the evolution of money, that's the first form of money is collectibles.
Exactly. And it's like it gives you, if you have a Charizard, also the Charizard Pokemon cards went to the roof. I had Charizard, I had Blastoise, I had all of them. I sold them on a flea market during King's Day one time, and it's a Dutch tradition to sell your old stuff in and they're now worth a lot of money. What's going on? So I think these Pokemon cards, like if you have one, it shows you like, wow, you were part of this movement, and you can prove to me that you're paid attention that time. It's so smart of you. You're such a smart person to save that all the time. You probably take good care of your belonging. It's a cultural statement to show. Look, I still have a Charizard.
It is, and just like, for example, it is for people playing online games. If they have a skin like Fortnite. Yeah, kids get lynched in school if they didn't have a skin. Like a skin which is an appearance in the game.
And the Ethereum rock, rock that was sold for 100,000, the same thing. Like with the guy that has that rock, it's like, look, I don't care about money, guys. I rock. I have a digital rock, and I spent $100,000 on it. I don't care.
It's like kind of FU money.
Yeah, it's a cultural statement. But if you look at nowadays, like a lot of people just go to Louis Vuitton. I was biking here, and there was a line in front of the street there in front of the Louis Vuitton shop. A whole line of people in the summery weather, but they're standing in front of a Louis Vuitton shop to buy a bag that's way too expensive.
We're just a bunch of apes.
Yes. Well, apenomics, actually, I call it.
And I would say that it might be part of the explanation. But I always look at the larger financial system as well, and seeing that we can all see the cultural or the system that we're in now is breaking down. So I actually think that everybody who's into cryptocurrency right now, and that is why I keep getting back to when will this promise be delivered, is we all own, or a lot of people own, cryptocurrency. They don't own the currency because they want to take back their own financial sovereignty. They don't own it because they're in it for the technology, because it's just normal people that have no idea how this technology works, and still they own it. Why? Because it is harder, or it's easier to own cryptocurrency with the promise of maybe getting worth that is worth more in the future.
That's the creed of greed.
And that might be the same thing for Charizards or Louis Vuitton bags, because if you have a nice second-hand Louis Vuitton bag, you can sell it for more than the new price. So people just buy stuff because they're looking for
future
yield. Yeah, they're looking for or maintaining value.
It's gonna be huge, right? Like imagine like the listeners to the GoldRepublic podcast all get an NFT because they're watching GoldRepublic podcast already from when you guys started, and that's a pretty cool thing to show. Like, look, I have this proof. I watched you guys from the beginning, or I subscribed from this start, or I donated some whatever this thing, and you get an NFT that actually proves that you're part of this community, and you can actually get perks with it. And people that maybe one of my favorite podcasts called Bankless, they recently turned into a DAO. So it's a podcast similar to GoldRepublic, but they turned themselves into a decentralized autonomous organization, right? And they have badges, and I've been been a subscriber to them, and suddenly I got an airdrop of like some money because I'm supporting them for some time already, and they're giving that to the early supporters because they want to show their gratitude to that. And also it's cool for me to show to people that I never showed it to anybody, but it's still like a cool thing to have in your wallet. Like, look, I have a Bankless badge from 2019, 2020, 2021.
So instead of giving away pens, we should give away an NFT of a pen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
cheaper.
Here's indeed a pen from GoldRepublic. So like, yes,
Beautiful pen.
It's a really beautiful pen. Very, very nice. But what if we can make this actually into an NFT? Like okay, Amadeo Brands.
How can you write with an NFT, Amadeo?
Cannot.
There you go.
But an NFT, it's an art, it's a digital form that you sign that like I was here at this moment, and then everybody that listens to First 100, they will get an NFT that they were here at this digital time and space moment. So well,
we should keep that in mind.
Yeah, and it's very valuable. Like if you go, Gary Vaynerchuk, right, and together with Ron Paul from Real Vision, they had this beautiful podcast talking about how powerful these communities will become, and it's actually, and I think that's also to answer the bridge to the other question. The next frontier will be communities.
Yeah,
I mean, basically what DeFi allows you to do is to create a lot of small micro economies. So we can create a GoldRepublic economy in itself, and people that are in it can trade. You can create a Amadeo Coin. I actually have Amadeo Coin as an experiment.
How's that going?
It's I never it's Deo Coin. It's on Etherscan, but I never promoted it because I suddenly got so overloaded with people that wanted my time, so I couldn't finish the coin, unfortunately. But my vision on that was basically like, imagine a world where we as a community all benefit from each other. So when I do something for you, I get Alexej coin, and you get Deo coin for me if you do something back for me. Mm-hmm. So if I do something for you, I don't get paid in fiat. I actually get paid in your token. And if you do well, your time becomes more valuable. I can sell your time to somebody else again for more, right? So these kind of very game theoretical experiments, I'm constantly doing my brain to see, okay, what will be next? And basically that's also what I'm now doing for Crescofin. So we're designing a bank, but we're also designing a token economic system that will push all the value that we're creating as much to the edges of the network, so that everybody will benefit from the growth of that community, and not only a central organization that just gets a lot of donations and then most of the time has too much money. As an organization, as an entrepreneur, you know how that goes, right? Like suddenly you're working so hard, and you have some early supporters, and then suddenly, okay, things are going well, and then you have a high cash position, and then you need to think like, oh, what shall I do next? But if it's actually community, the whole community decides, oh, nice, we have some extra cash, let's do this, or let's do this, let's do this. So it's going to increase economic efficiency and coordination extremely much.
Yeah. And to comment on the community side, I've also listened to that part, not with Gary Vaynerchuk, but with Raoul Paul. I think it was with on the Defiant with Camille Russo, and they had also great conversation. And Raoul was also giving kind of his insight on one communities, and it's really important to know that once you have a set of people who not just for you can bring it back to crowdfunding. They have enough people owning a share of your company, just as the traditional system we're in, you're much more safe to weather through bad times, because a lot of people own bits of your company. And if you're a brand and a company that people love, then they will not sell it. They will hold on to. Just
even
like
buy
people
more.
Hold Bitcoin.
Even buy more. Even as a company, I think when you go through a bad time, you can say like, guys, it's so hard for us.
Yeah.
Imagine if Vespa was like a Vespa, which the company kind of is around still, I guess, but like these older Vespas, they had some hard times, but they're building beautiful scooters. But imagine if that's like a community, and they're like, oh, we want to raise some funds to build this new model. The people that actually help us now in this hard time will get a percentage of the revenue share if we are successful. So you all share the risk as a community. You share the risk and you share the rewards.
Yeah, and it's exactly, it's minimal if it's spread over like a big amount of people, and that's what also like the scalability is important too, right? The more you can scale a system, the more people can participate in it seamlessly, and that's where the beauty will be. Is that where I see like where it really excites me is that it becomes this liquidity that nature has integrated of itself that we try to reproduce, mimic. Of no matter of which level it communicates through its holistically, right? If you look at planet Earth, the way nature has been designed and built,
it started centralized. It started like a lot of natural systems, and if you look at the fungi, like fungi is like a
fungi.
rot, fungi. So if you look at it, started also like centralized, but then it spreads out throughout this whole system. And if you touch the fungi here, it goes through the whole system. So it spreads out like this decentralized ecosystem that's unstoppable. And you see that in nature a lot, like with bacteria or with viruses or whatever, right? So that's the same thing that will happen with a decentralized community that can just spread out like without any stoppage, because like who can stop this community, right? Nobody can stop it. So it's gonna be super interesting. And I do see that the community part will probably be the next frontier to conquer.
Yeah. On that note, we've also talked about, so there's also what could be interesting to also like touch upon is the different models. We talked about incentives, and this is what we call in the crypto India is token economics.
Yes.
So what are the let's say the major new type of token economics that you are really excited about?
Yeah. So like that is something I'm very passionate about, token economics. Like I've been studying that. It's perfectly within my comfort zone, because it's a cross between economics and computer science, and it's a bit of a mix of both, which I find super interesting. And it's basically game theory, and it's a fun joke, I say, like apenomics, because we're apes basically, and we're trying to influence the apes, right? And there's a lot of interesting experiments going on constantly in crypto. So there's constantly millions of outcomes are being modeled, and humans are interacting with these financial systems, and you can see very weird outcomes like hacks or Pulse Chain. This is I know Richard Hart, for example, personally, but he's playing that economics very well. Although I don't like him, and I think it's a scam what he's doing. But
who?
Richard Hart, like
with Pulse Chain.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a bit, sorry, I don't want to offend anybody, but I think it's a well designed apenomic design, right? But we can use these game theoretical systems to do a lot of good in the world, I think. And something that actually was written by a Dutch, I forgot his name, by also a Dutch guy, was charitable giving. So it's like you have a charity, and let's say I'm the first person that donates to this charity. Part of the money goes into, I lock it, and then the next person that donates also puts $20 in a of his donation into a bonding curve, right? So there's a lot of very interesting ways to basically build Ponzi schemes around a charity. So then if you're the first person that donates to a charity, and then this charity becomes very big, you can actually profit from donating to charity.
Okay. So that's like a beneficial Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, so that's more funny. That's actually pretty old. Like that's bonding curves and dynamic like game theoretical concepts. And right now, I would say I'm now designing a decentralized organization around the bank that we're trying to create with Kreskofin. So I'm trying to design a decentralized organization that will actually mint real-world asset tethers on-chain. And I'm designing like a system, okay, how do I incentivize everybody to actually participate in the system? And how do I design a system that will move the power to the edges of the network, so everybody that actually helps this network stay alive and grow? And if a nation state attack comes, we'll still keep it alive, still be incentivized to keep it alive, and to connect other banks and connect other ecosystems to this real-world asset tether DAO as well. To design a system like that, I look basically at a couple of pillars, and it's from economic book Lisa. She wrote that's a really good work from her, Lisa Tang, and I basically what she's saying is a very new economic field, right? So how do you design a token economic system? I basically look at market design, mechanism design, and token design, right? And these pillars I take into account, and I look, okay, what is the objective, and what kind of market can I design? What kind of mechanism should I design around it for an efficient market, and what kind of token I can do that captures value of that market and of the mechanism design. That's basically how you can do that now.
Okay, and do you have like particular examples?
Yes. So one of my it's a bit a harder example. So they see like there's like Curve Finance, for example. As an example, it's not a really well-known project, but I really liked it.
I do. It's
okay.
known.
Okay.
It's known.
Nice. because it's a little bit on the background. Like Curve Finance is more like it's a beautiful protocol, but if you go to their website, it looks like the 80s. It's like it's an older interface, but I love it personally. So it attracts the right kind of people, I guess, right? So and it attracts you as well. So it's more for people that really want to go more of the base layer and want to really invest or with the APIs or more on that side, right? So Curve Finance created a system where it basically creates a very attractive financial market for people to trade stablecoins, right? So it created in my opinion, a better FX market than we have right now in a centralized financial system. So it's an FX
foreign exchange.
Yeah, foreign exchange market to trade dollars to euros to Japanese yen, etc. And they do that with keeping the different stablecoin dollars at one pair because one price is not always the same price. So they created this. Michael, one of the main brains behind it, created this very efficient bonding curve that's better than the Uniswap bonding curve, which is more suitable for stablecoins. Very well, nicely designed. And he created a token around that to boost the liquidity in these pools. So then you have the CRV token that's given to these to people that use it. And a lot of people, oh, nice, they get a lot of tokens. So they go into the pool, they sell the tokens directly, etc. But now the emission is actually running lower. And everybody wants to be part of Curve because Curve actually made a name for itself and the liquidity actually sticks. So now these tokens to vote on certain mechanisms in the ecosystem are getting more and more valuable. So I think over time, like what Curve did is like exchanging future economic revenue, putting it a little to the front, attracting the liquidity and hoping that it sticks. And then the economic value of the token will lag behind a little bit. So I think Curve Finance is a very cool example of a well-executed token economic system, I would say. Or MakerDAO, the MKR token, which is now also a full decentralized system as well, which also captured value in a very, very nice way, where part of the fees that the protocol generates by locking up your collateral Ethereum and then minting a stablecoin called DAI, you pay a little bit of fee over that, and that's going back into the token. So that mechanism is also working very well. And you can actually go to tokenterminal.com, I believe, and put it in the description. And there you can actually then calculate price to earnings ratios of these protocols. So then you can start to think like, okay, wait, this protocol has this amount of volume. There's this amount of revenue. So this is the earnings of the protocol. So what's the price to earnings ratio of that protocol? And then you can make a decision. And a lot of these PA ratios of these protocols are around 10, 15 or something like around 5, which is much better than like right now. If you look at Tesla, which has a PA ratio of 250 or something like that, I don't know,
yeah,
like crazy.
So you are doing that same organization or development for Crescott Finance?
Yeah. So for Crescofin, I'm trying to design now a token economic system that will basically decentralize the minting of real world assets. So Crescofin is a centralized company that it creates fiat accounts for people to deposit their fiat in Switzerland. And they wanted to mint that on chain. And to do that, we created a protocol. And to keep that protocol like a SaaS solution alive, we're creating a DAO, a decentralized organization around that. And we're minting tokens, so to incentivize everybody that works on the system and keeps the system alive and makes the system strive to become more connected as a community to it. Yeah.
And then these examples like Curve and MakerDAO really help you in your you've been part of MakerDAO as well, right?
Yes.
So but it helps you in development of the new best.
It's all open
way.
source. It's all open source.
Yeah.
So the same thing why I would make everything also open source. It's more like, okay, making a banking system that is closed source is nonsensical in my opinion. Because what MakerDAO or Curve try to do, they're trying to build a better system. If somebody else is out there that can create a better system, go ahead. But they have to, and Curve needs to compete, needs to keep up. You saw that, like Curve got forked a lot by a lot of protocols.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's good.
Just like Uniswap with SushiSwap.
It's great.
Same thing. And,
it's good.
And exactly. And it keeps people on their toes. Right?
Yeah, and you see now SushiSwap trying to, like Uniswap's trying to be a little more closed source, but SushiSwap is outcompeting Uniswap in a lot of different angles. You see SushiSwap, Uniswap going a little bit more in this regulated route, which I find interesting that they're trying to do that. Although their Uniswap v3 protocol is pretty good. But SushiSwap is just doing much more innovation because it's this whole community of people that there's no politics, right? That's something I hate the most in companies, politics. And unfortunately, every centralized company has politics. In a decentralized organization, what you just do, you get these smart people together in a room and you just let them communicate with each other. Normally, if you go to any centralized company, and there's always a small group of people that do actually all the hard work. So you take that small group of people that actually do the hard work and you let them just directly communicate with each other. And the things around that will basically form by itself. So,
perhaps it would be more of an organic way of actually then structuring an effort. But I can also imagine like you have different phases. In the case of Uniswap, it's VC baked as well. So they have to follow basically the mandate or the interest of their money providers, and thereby influencing the way the protocol functions. And
Sushi is also now looking. This is reverse VC funding. So Sushi is getting very successful, and there's a VC knocking at the DAO's door, like, please, can we want to be part of this. We want to buy $100 million, $50 million into your company. We want to get influence over this. Well, you have
LP tokens basically.
Yeah, well, you have to do Sushi token. It's funny, I think, but it's a token that's actually very valuable now. And so these VCs need to go in there and ask to the community, and the community needs to do a vote. Like, okay, we're going to let this VC in, and we're going to give them some tokens from the treasury or something like that, because they don't want to buy it from the open market, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I find really interesting and also kind of funny is that the way that we are moving from centralized to decentralized, and the principles behind decentralized finance, but also all the applications that might flow from it. They all remind me of small communities that are, for example, a small village somewhere in the mountains, and people are really a community, and then scaled up in world.
Instead of being one physical village, you're a village, but spread around the globe.
Exactly.
Just connected with your little internet connection.
A Earth-wide village.
Exactly.
Exactly, and that's how it should be, right? Like, I mean, the government is here to work for people, and they should be very celebrating this economic bandwidth expansion of us being more coordinating to each other, right? And I think that's going to happen. Like, I think overall humans are good, and overall I think humanity is kind of good. So I think overall the best and most efficient outcome will win, but not directly, right? So there's always a fight, which is good. You always need to get macht and tegenmacht, like, so power and power against that, right? So it's always very important to have that in any system. And I think probably the utopia that I have about DeFi is probably not the best and most efficient outcome. That the outcome that I think is amazing is probably not the best outcome. So the best outcome is always, I think, the middle ground. So that's what I'm now also trying to do with Crashgriffin, trying to really merge decentralized world and the centralized world, and just taking the best learnings that we get from the centralized world, the best learnings that we get from the decentralized world, and trying to merge these things together. And it's not only me that's doing that. It's just I'm just trying to build the tools for people to these worlds to just come together in an electronic way, and then have communities decide what is probably the best outcome.
Yeah. It's just that bundle interest, like monetary interest together to act upon. Is like, I always love this meme where you have this, you have like this shark being chased away by this bank of fish who look like a shark, and that makes a bigger fish, but like because they're together, like this David Goliath kind of thing. On that note, also I think it would be good then to, because we already talked about liquidity pools. And liquidity providers, so two LP abbreviated words. So how does it work? And for people to know, because it's one of the most popular.
Yeah, it's because people want to provide liquidity, and there's like these apenomics where you can actually get an API of like an interest rate of 1,000% a year, right? So
yeah, that's ridiculous though. That's kind of Ponzi scheme level.
Yes, it is ridiculous in a way. But I mean, it did happen, right? If you look at Yearn Finance, for example, I was part of Curve, so I was actually providing liquidity to a liquidity pool in Curve Finance, and then suddenly Yearn launched, and they had 2,000% API for like a little brief moment, and everybody jumped into this pool, shot up in value, and then the tokens were distributed, right? So these things happen, but these happened in the right communities, right? So if you're a V-Curve holder or an MKR voter or things like that, you might get rewarded for your intellectual efforts, right? Same thing like what I gave a course, DeFi 101, and this was in the beginning of 2020, released. And then I basically explained how to use Curve, how to use 1inch, how to use Uniswap. And everybody that used Uniswap got an airdrop of 400 tokens, and the price of the token now is $20. So that's like around, like at some point it was like the airdrop was around like $6,000 or $7,000 per user that used Uniswap. So it rewards you to use this new technology, right? Because a protocol wants to attract the people that do the effort to learn. It wants to attract the self-sovereign individuals to form a more educated new nation state, right? So it tries to find these people, and the system tries to do that by itself, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a longer introduction, but to come back to the main explanation, so a liquidity pool is nothing else than a pool where somebody puts his assets to work. Similar like when you put your money in a bank account, the bank uses your assets to lend it out, to inject it in the economy. With a liquidity pool, you can actually use your idle assets and inject that into a pool where the overall decentralized financial ecosystem can use your liquidity to make the market more efficient. So it's like a self-fulfilling, like self-strengthening and a anti-fragile system, because the more people that are attracted to put their liquidity in the system, the better the system will become. Mm-hmm. And the system will probably reward the early users a little bit more because they bootstrap the system. Over time, the reward go lower. And then if the system gets weaker, there will be another probably increase of rewards. Similar to how mining works. That's why they call it liquidity mining, right? Liquidity providing, liquidity mining.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So that liquidity then providers are also then enabling for other people to take loans.
The liquidity providers, that's the like on Aave or something like that. Yeah. But if you're a liquidity provider on Uniswap, you provide that for people to do trading, mm-hmm. right? So let's maybe cover that first and then go to the loan part, right? So Uniswap is something we call like an automated market maker, right? So basically what Uniswap does, it's a decentralized exchange. And it only functions because more and more people use the protocol. So the protocol in itself it's really nothing. If nobody uses it, it doesn't work. The more people use it, the better the protocol becomes. Same goes for Curve, same goes for Yearn Finance, right? So the more people that inject their liquidity in the protocol, the better the system becomes. And Uniswap in this case is an automated market maker. It automatically makes the market. So it automatically gives you a protocol to sell your ETH for US dollar or USDC, right? Or it provides a protocol to sell your ETH for red Bitcoin or sell your ETH for another token. And it does that by having somebody that has these two assets, putting it in a pool, and then other people can trade with it. And because other people trade with it, they pay a small trading fee for it. And the people that then provide their assets in that pool will get money for providing that asset to the user. It's basically, if you look at a traditional market maker fund, right? It's a high barrier to entry. You need to have a lot of liquidity to inject in it. And it's like an order book. So it's a robot that looks into the order book and makes the order book. If there would be no market makers in the current financial system, the price would just like shoot up and shoot down all the time, right? It would be very inefficient. But because of this constant liquidity and market making, the centralized system stays like stable. And what they did in DeFi, they kind of turned this model upside down. A lot of things in DeFi are, if you take traditional finance, but then turned upside down.
Yeah.
So they take the traditional market making approach, but then make it automated and then have no centralized order book. So it's all the price of Ethereum or USDC, how that floats, it's all determined by the market. There's no centralized order book that decides, we shift the price here or there or there.
And the more liquidity, the more participants, the better. So that's why also the honeypot.
The bigger it becomes. Yeah. So the more liquidity you inject, the more, you could say, like, if I put $100 of Ethereum, $100 of USDC, then it's a very small market. If somebody trades $100, the whole price would shift, or it would be a different curve, right? It would be a different curve, how you would see that. But if liquidity becomes very big, and if you then inject some liquidity, the price moves a little bit less.
Yeah.
And that's automated market maker. And that's why LP pools are getting very popular. And
liquidity pools, LP.
Liquidity pools. And that's also
because LP is also liquidity provider. So when is when?
LP. You have a liquidity pool where you have liquidity providers providing liquidity to the pool.
I find. Yeah, okay. I thought there was another abbreviation for that, but yeah, okay.
No, not yet. Yeah, but I guess that will come maybe. Yeah, it's very early. Yeah. But the thing is that so the system will make itself stronger to like provide that liquidity to you. So it's good luck stopping that. But it's just a system that's out there. Like everybody can.
And then there's other things like lending, and there's also like synthetics, right? And I know so this is going to be a 2-part podcast anyways, but and this part is going to be maybe more about those details.
Yeah.
But quickly as well, in the same fashion, how does then the lending process differentiate?
Yeah.
And the synthetics, which is another type of
let's do the first lending part. Yeah. Like if you go to Aave.com, so Uniswap is for the automated market maker, and Aave.com is the biggest lending market with now a TVL, total value locked, of $20 billion.
That's massive.
$22 billion locked in this protocol, lending and borrowing.
Yeah.
And it's still a drop in the whole financial system. If you look at the derivatives markets or the lending markets, like trillions, right? So we're still very small, but it has a very high, steep upside potential, I would say. So Aave, look at it, and you can actually get a better yield than in your bank and better settlement assurance. And I will talk about that now. So how does a lending pool work, right? So in a traditional way, you give your money to the bank. Your money is not yours anymore, and the bank just starts giving your money to other people and starts to print more money and basically screws you over, right? In Aave, basically what's happening is that the money is locked into a lending pool where you say, okay, I have this amount of capital, and I lock it in this pool, and there's another side that borrows it, and the other side that borrows is always need to have enough liquidity, proven on chain, mathematically proven, that they have. I lock $1,000 in Aave, and I get a small percentage of interest because on the other side there's somebody that borrows from that $1,000 from you and pays 7% interest over it, right? So that's why you get a interest over it. But why it is more secure is because the person that borrows that money from you needs to be over collateralized. So the person that wants to borrow 1,000 USDC needs to have a minimum of 1,500 USDC to have a collateral ratio, C ratio we call it, of 150%. Right. So this means that at some point, when the interest or when this ratio goes down, he will be automatically liquidated, and the person that borrows out the money will not even see that this person that borrowed his money got liquidated. He doesn't really care. This person that put in the liquidity can always get the liquidity out of the system.
Okay.
It's cryptographically secured. But nothing, like every percentage gain that you make, there's always a risk. So, I mean, if the system fails, if Ethereum breaks down,
if the code is written, or
exactly,
smart contracts not well designed,
black swans,
and synthetics,
so that's a lending pool. So what the synthetics is basically something that I'm now also working on with Crescofin, right? But it's basically that you had a nice silver bar before, so we can create a synthetic version of a real world asset by saying, look, I have the synthetic version here. I'm putting that somewhere, and then I create and put it in a vault, and it's signed off by a legal custody, whatever. and it's there. And then we say, okay, we're going to create a synthetic option of that actual real world asset. So we over collateralize again that position with the amount of money, and then you can just trade that position. But again, it's over collateralized, and so if that real world assets then goes down in price, then that synthetic can get liquidated.
Yeah. So it's a crypto derivative.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, cool. Amadeo, we've had just on the clock 1 hour 30 of amazing content into your sweet little ears, and I think we're gonna call it a wrap.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your precious knowledge. We hope to have you also again here on the show to cover other developments in DeFi. To all the viewers and listeners, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for also listening to this podcast and watching us on YouTube. If you have any questions, you can put them down below, and maybe even Amadeo would also answer them. Just give it a like if you also enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because that also means a lot to us. Bart, do you want to add something?
We will see each other in the next GoldRepublic podcast.